Well, we always say that the Ocean Globe race is all about the stories, and there was another one this morning. Just as I was about to press the go button, everything sort of went a bit haywire. So it took me another call to Jane and a few other little issues here before we got it up. But we're here and we're a bit late. We do try to be here at 11 o'clock every morning. That's our time, of course, here in Cape Town and France, same thing. So sorry about the delay again by 6 minutes or something. And we'll carry right on. So yeah, there's interesting stuff going on right now with all the boats, and I call it the T day, the turn day. When do you turn left? And the generics of that is pretty simple. If you have to make a dramatic turn to head towards the finish point, which is Cape Town, you can see if you turn too early and you get the weather wrong, you go out and park in the South Atlantic High. But if you keep extending south, you're actually sailing away from the mark. So if you go too far south and you could have turned a day or 2 days earlier, then you've just wasted 2 days by going too far down. And it's interesting to watch what's happening with the fleet, the leaders of the fleet, to see how they're going to tackle that. Anyway, so we'll get straight into it. We'll come back to questions, and I'm going to spend a bit more time on this one just to explain some of the things that are going on with the boats and what I think might be going through their head. Making the decisions they do. So let's see what we've got here. And if I come on here, we should have that there. Pull this up here. Okay. So right now, it's all getting interesting, as you know, and this is the whole issue, and it's very confusing as well. Down south, when you look at the weather, there's no distinct South Atlantic high. Here's the one that's causing there's a center of it that's causing this particular weather that's affecting the first 4 boats, or in fact all of them, but it's going to be influenced by this low pressure coming off the side here. There's another high cell here, which is probably going to mold, but we'll look at all this in the end. And generally speaking, even though now we're seeing Penduic coming up, okay, and heading straight for Cape Town, I've got to tell you, that's not usually the done deal without looking at the weather going forward. Anyone coming from this direction, you've got to be really lucky to crack it because you can see here, for instance, this wind flow coming around from the southeast. It's predominantly going to be a southeasterly breeze most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. And this is where you've got to be really careful. So the concept is you always approach Cape Town from the southwest, and I want people to keep that in their brain for now and see how it evolves. And there's a risk profile here. I'm not sure at the moment what sort of weather information the boats are getting right here. We've asked Cape Town to start, sending their forecasting. As they get closer, they'll certainly pick up some of the local weather. But for now, I have no idea what they're getting. We'll talk to them on the SoundCloud calls and see what's happening. But yeah, normally you'd be down here at 40 degrees. And I think all of them are starting to turn now, like Translated already starting to turn. It's very tempting to do that for a couple of reasons. Forgetting about the local weather, sometimes you do that to keep moving with the sailing breeze. It could be a bit light and so on. But it's tempting to cut the corner because, as I was saying, you can see going straight to there, that's fine. If you come down here another 1 day, 2 days, you're still not going towards the mark. So then you turn 2 days later, and if you didn't have to go south, you've wasted 2 days while other boats are going there. And I really think there's just, anyway, maybe they're just getting too anxious because it's very competitive there at the moment as well. And maybe they're turning a bit too early. Who knows? But we'll have a look at the weather on that a little bit further down the track when we talk about the others. So Godspeed, crikeys. I'm not sure who they're talking to on the radio, but they are absolutely committed to do the same thing that Outlaw is doing and head way out to the east. So that's their story for today. The conditions now are pretty good. 6.4 knots. Forget about the distance sailed in the last 24 hours, showing -10, but that's because they're sailing away from this rum line. I talk about it often. It's not a super sophisticated program that's managing this. They can't determine individual data from each boat going towards the finish point and so on. So, just take their boat speed that's worked out on GPS speed, really, from the previous coordinates. So every 4 hours, it'll work out the speed during those 4 hours between those 2 points. So the boat speed is correct. And you can measure off using the distance tool to see where they go. So that's their story. The Outlaw, they're also extending right on the side. What they will know from history is that there is always a little bit lighter southeasterlies on the edge of a potential high, which is driving these southeasterly trade winds here. It's usually stronger in the middle than it is on the edges. So what you try and do is you do exactly what they look like they're doing. You tack down this line here in lighter winds, because if you've got to go to windward, it's nice to have a smooth sea state. So that's part of the issue for them running down the edge. But you start to lose out badly when you get down in this region, especially if the wind picks up. So they're going to pay the piper in the days ahead. And it might be, might work out okay. It's a bit hard to say. Evrika, on the other hand, who's also gone out down the middle road, is taking a bit more conservative route. And this is usually what people talk about when they're going to go down through the high, not necessarily right out in the corner. And they are losing some of their easting at the moment, but they're just taking it on one tack. And the reason they're doing that is because it's absolutely a southeasterly, right? But at least they're making ground south, which is where they want to go. And they can vary their boat speed. And it's interesting looking now, 7.4 knots, 111 miles in the last 24 hours, but 7.4 knots is probably a little bit better than their, that is better than their normal windward speed if they were hard on the breeze at like 40 degrees or something. And if we look at, if we, we can see here it's a little bit soft, so that's probably 15 knots, maybe higher, maybe 15, gusting 20 in there at the moment, so that's okay. But if they were to tack in this wind, if they're tacking 90 degrees, they're going to be going straight out to the east again. So they're committed once again. It's a losing tack when you go out to the east, when you're actually sailing to the mark down at Cape Town. So they have no real option at the moment. They have to hold that, and you can see if they hold that, unless they decide they're going to short tack, but it's going to be out here and then down there and out here and down there, which is slow, and they'll know that this is the trade wind. So they'll be frustrated, I think, trying to work out what's going on, and they have no choice. So they have to follow that route. That's what's going on there. And I doubt whether you'll see them tack across and go to the east. They may, but a bit hard. I think that's what's going on board. A bit hard to say. A bit of guesswork, but that's my opinion. Coming around to, so I think we spoke about boat speed. Yeah, Outlaw 6.5, Evrika 7.4, and Godspeed doing 6.4, which is pretty good. But they're certainly 6.4. That's above their windward speed, so they're not trying to hold down. If they were, they might be able to get a bit closer. Anyway, so Explorer, 7.7 knots, 101 in the last 24. That's up against the run line. If they're doing 7 knots average, there's 140, 50, 60, 165 miles or something they probably did. But you can see their track is further out to the west than anyone before. And there's no question in my mind that they're not pushing the boat too hard, which can be a good thing. There's a long way to go around the world. And when I compare Explorer's performance to Triana, they've slowed down. I've never seen 6 knots on Triana for a long time. They're doing 6 knots at the moment, but they've always usually been 7 to 8 knots, just pushing the boat really hard. And, it is a long way around the world. Anyway, so Explorer's doing their thing. I don't know what's happening with the currents. Someone suggested maybe they're getting pushed to the west by the currents. There is a little bit of a, if we push this up here, you can see there's a little bit of a set going from the east to the west, and it might have pushed them a little bit, but it's not dramatic. That's less than half a knot, I suppose, or maybe even less. So not the big deal. The waves, what have we got here? Yeah, 2 to 3. So it's pretty much as you're seeing the videos coming off the boats, those boats that can send videos. I think Explorer's now into that, and they've just got to do the best they can. And we'll, I think what we will do in a minute, I'll just check here. I was going to go forecast the weather forward, but I'll do the rest of the middle pack first, and then we'll just bounce the weather and see if there's any changes coming. I doubt whether there will be. So Sterner doing really well, 7.2 knots, says 206 in the last 24 hours. That's maybe a bit ambitious. So, could be a bit of a misreading there because they're right on the turn of the run line. White Shadow 7.7, 224 nautical miles in the day. Again, maybe not. Maybe they got a current. Galliana with Secure 7.3, 126. Yeah, there's some funny anomalies going on there, but They're certainly sailing well, and these conditions would be pretty ideal going to windward. I think you'll see the sea state there is probably down around 2 meters. Yeah, it's 2 to 3, but bordering more on 2, I think. So very much like you're seeing in the videos, as I mentioned. Okay, so from there, I think I'm going to kick back here and we'll try and do a look at the weather across the whole fleet here of that level of boats. Godspeed's just up the top there, and I doubt whether we'll see much change because it's basically trade winds. So there's 24 hours out. Okay, a bit more, no change in direction. Everything's pretty much the same. A little bit more breeze for Godspeed, maybe. The next day, here we go. Gets a bit stronger, but there's a few holes here. So there's a few holes here for the boats. Explorer is going to be the same. The wind is absolutely swinging here now. You can see they're on a split. Explorer's on a split where it's a southeasterly coming up here, but just as it gets to them, it's rolling around. This is in 2 days. So in 2 days, they're going to have an easterly, and it'll be bordering on north of east. So it'll be an east northeasterly maybe. And depending on how far down they are, you can see it absolutely hooking around here. So, and that's going to impact everyone. So we'll come back to real time today, start looking at the middle feet. Neptune is doing 6.4 knots. So that means the wind's softening off. They've probably got 10 to 15 there. It's already looking a bit, I can see some blue patches in here if we build that up. You've got some, there's some faint blue bits in here, not much, but 15 to 20. Triana, that's why they're slowing down, because some of that's dropping back to 10 to 15, maybe puffing a little bit higher. Same with the Spirit Equip. They've got some softening of the breeze at the moment. It's going to get softer, 6.8, 153 in the last 24 hours. So that's explaining sort of what's happening there. Now come down to Maiden. This is the tricky bit, but you can see they're turning because the breeze is turning, and that's because it's based on the center of this high here. So what would I be doing if I was on the same boat? So I would do the same thing to a degree if I had no other forecasting, because if we look at the big picture, you'll see it's hard to predict. So just for now, I'll check their boat speeds. 7.5 knots, 135, 24 hours, forget about that. Mainly boat speed. 8.9 knots, translated, is flying. That's pretty cool. 191, that may be correct. Spirit of Helsinki, 8.9, 203. And then there's Penjuik, which has been not fluffing around, but sailing different courses, making the most of it. When she went down here, it was because they were sailing into no wind, and you don't sail into the center of the high, which was over here then. You got to keep away from the center, so keep the breeze and turned around. But now, if we look at what's happening here, bearing in mind, I'll just show you where Cape Town is, just those that forgot, it's basically straight to the east is Cape Town. Very tempting. And you've noticed over the last number of days or weeks, Penjuik was way in front, right? Now, if we look at pure trigonometry, all these boats now are racing out to the east to get to Cape Town. And if they could sail direct to Cape Town, then here's the difference in the reality of who's in the front. Now, all of a sudden, Penjuik is only a roundabout, bearing in mind straight line distance to where it's going, only 150 miles in front of Spirit of Helsinki, because that's where they're all headed. So 150 miles is less than a day away. So this is the critical issue about the turn. You know, you got to decide and try and get it right. And everyone will be staring at whatever weather information they've got, looking at their charts, doing the distance. It's so tempting to make that turn, right? And it's funny, I'm in Cape Town now talking to some locals, and they're all saying, oh, jeepers, they're still up a bit high. And then you say to yourself, okay, what would I be doing if I was on the boat? You really should be coming down here. Would I do it? I'm not sure. But there's no question, you really need to be down on 40. That's the general rule of thumb if the weather's traditional. But the trick right now is that we don't know whether it is, because there's the impact of this low. But that can be a good thing, because it means you're not going to get headwinds. So even if you came down south and stuck on 40 and tried to ride this through, you may still do okay. All right. So let's just... so Penjuik now is only 150 miles in front of translated Helsinki, and I think that'll show in the IRC. So first IRC is obviously translated still. Fourth in IRC is Spirit of Helsinki, and you've got second in IRC Penjuic. Nothing's changed there. We could look at the leaderboard to see how far ahead Translated is, which I'll do in a minute. But first, I'll just try and push this weather forward. I'll just bounce it forward every hour, and I've got this vision. We can't see the speed equipped, but this is the main game. This is the weather here that I want to show you as it rolls through, and that's what they're all trying to work out. Now, you can see there, Penjuic's still looking all right. They've got basically a breeze that's favourable to heading to the east. Spirit of Helsinki is the same, but they're a bit higher, so they're going to get caught up with this high pressure forming behind them. And it's all very iffy. Anyway, Translated is going to start to get very light winds. And this is only by midnight tonight. This is all happening now. There's a conflagration of all these different systems coming together, which is making them move around really fast to settle into some sort of organization, because you've got a high pressure and low pressure. They can join together, bounce off each other, do all these different things. But generally, still with what's going on, even though there's these potential calm spots that's going to stop some boats and not others, all the wind that's there, whatever's there, is in the right direction for a direct transit to Cape Town. So that's interesting. There goes day 1.5. So it's day 1.5. And then whatever's happening here, all of these boats so far, doesn't matter where they are, the wind is either no wind if you've got a centre here, or you've got everything pushing you to the east. So that's fine. No need to waste room to go down south. This is over 2.5 days ahead now, and the breeze is still tricking along. They're below the centre of the high. Here's the headwinds, but all of these guys will be down here somewhere. Some are going to park, but this is 2.5 days. So let's just pick it here. 2.5 days for Penjuic is going to be 500 miles even. So there's 500 miles, something like that, if she's going straight for it. Helsinki will be the same. They've still generally got a favourable wind, so that's encouraging. If she won't be able to break through this, Penjuic won't be able to push through that calm, but what's going to happen to it? Let's just wait and see. We'll carry on. So this is 2.5 days. We're now coming into 3 days. There's 3 days ahead, and you can see this centre here is still moving. It's going to move into a southeasterly direction by the look of it. It's getting held up by this low pressure here. The southeasterly is spinning off from the low, and this is very traditional. This is the big trap. Fortunately, the centre of the high here, which is going around that way, is quite narrow. So as it moves, you either stay with it or you're not going to be stuck in a big hole. Sometimes there's a hole like this big, it can be, 200 miles across, and you just park. But I think the leader, Penjuic, may have trouble pushing through this, and the others will compress up behind him. Maybe. A bit hard to call, but it's still looking like a fast transit to the east. So we're now going through into the 15th, which is 4 days ahead. So there's 4 days ahead, and it's stalled. You can clearly see now, this is a blocking band for anyone wanting to go through. So you're going to see some interesting frustrations here. And again, distance-wise, this is 4 days. So there's 600 miles. That's right about where they're going to be. And so what would you do? My gut feeling is if you're here and as you're watching your barometer, as the barometer's you're going into a high, as it's rising and the wind's dropping, then you'd have to say, we can't go in the center, we've got to keep going down. Because you go to the center, you're going to park anyway. You don't make a tactic to push through. So that means you'd be tempted to keep pushing down here. And if they do that, if they come down here, they still can't get through the low. So through the high rather. So let's just see what happens to this high. It's just holding there like a fence. At some point, something's going to change. There's the 16th. It's really messy. And at that point, I lose control of what's going on, except for the fact that if they had have been coming down here to 40, see there's a bit of breeze down here, and at some point, the center of the highs usually just disappear and head down to the southeast, or you get hooked up into the bottom, exactly what's happening here, of this southeasterly. And because you're now approaching from the southwest, you can see this breeze here, you can actually make for Cape Town. And that's why all of the pilot books, every one of them, everything that you ever read about how do you sail to Cape Town, you come down to 40th parallel of latitude, 40 degrees south, make your way along, and when you're in the southwest, make your way to Cape Town. So they're still generally high. So that's what you're watching out for. That was a long explanation. I hope it's not too boring on the issues at hand and why the boats are going down there. And already, if I look back at where they are, they've already cut the corner quite substantially in saving time. Usually and often you come right down here. You know, if you were a clipper ship, which is where it all comes from, you would just sail straight down here on all these breezes that are going south. You get to keep going south till you hit 40, and then you run along the bottom here. And then when you're ready to go up from the southwest, you go up there. So you can see everyone's cut the corner, and that's worked well with the current weather that we've got. But let's wait and see what happens going forward. So I think that's about it. We've been through everyone, Triana, Neptune. Yeah, I haven't forgotten anyone. So I'll just come back and see if there's any comments. Hopefully we've still got sound and everything. Yes, we got the comments here. Okay. Only a few. Thanks for sticking around. Sorry I was late again. Morning from Lancaster. Hi, Caroline. Thanks for the race. Oh, thanks. They make my day and take my mind off the wars going on. I got to say, you know, you brought this up, not me. Yesterday morning, I thought I should say something. You know, we're all incredibly lucky to be doing what we're doing. I think that's probably enough said. You know, we don't get political and all this, that, and the other, but yeah, the world is mixed up at times, you know, and sometimes it's hard to, you know, well, anyway, we won't go there. But yes, I agree entirely. We are all incredibly lucky to be doing what we're doing. And hopefully that's inspiring people to get involved with adventure and all the positive things that come from that. And we just do what we do, but we're mindful of what's going on in the background. So be happy when you can. So, you know, Mike, George, join the update. Good morning, Helen, Adelaide checking in and wishing fair and good winds in the right direction. Hi, good morning from Ireland. G'day, sailors. Morning. No questions. That's cool. Hello from Cape Town. Hello, Ada. Yeah. And Mitch, what makes a boat good for sailing to windward? Oh, okay. So lots of different things. First thing about sailing to windward is you need good riding moment. So if that's the mast, when the wind blows on the sails, it blows the boat down, obviously. And when you're going to windward, you've got headwinds. And if you don't have a good riding moment, like you're not, you know, you haven't got the keel forcing the boat up, you get no power in the boat to drive forward. So what are the things that kill your power? Well, if you look at Explorer, we've got 2 head sail furling gears, reefing gears that go up the mast, lots of spare halyards up the mast, all that sort of stuff. And so there's extra weight aloft, and that means it decreases the effect of the keel, so it's a bit more tender with the wind. That's not good for going to windward. You look at a boat like Triana or Translated, they don't have any furling gears because there's heavy aluminium tube up there, and they have a single wire, okay? And they hank their sails on the wire, which is a pain in the ass, because if you saw their video, going forward to change sails, water all over them, also, so you put yourself at risk because you're up there, you've got to stay clipped on. And I saw one of their life jackets inflated because of the waves breaking over them, things like that. But with a furling gear, you pull a string from the cockpit and the sail just folds up, so it's easier and more comfortable, but not as fast. So that's one thing that you need, no extra weight aloft. So you'll see that very competitive boats, they won't have furling gears, which makes life easy, but it's too much weight aloft. So that's one thing. Another one is you need a good design of the boat, you know, nice bow and stuff. And most of the boats like the Baltics and the Swans and all that, they are very good windward boats. They were designed in an era where they were meant to power to windward. You look at a boat like Maiden, and I'm not saying it's a bad windward boat, but it's specifically got some design features with the big flat bottom and the big beam to really plane quickly and run along the surface of the water for going downwind or reaching. And a lot of your sailing in around the world race is downwind and reaching. Right now, what you're seeing is all the boats having to put up with a couple of weeks of going to windward. But after that, by the time they get to Cape Town, you know, going through the Southern Ocean generally is all heavy weather downwind, and you just barrel along with it. So you can't have a boat you can have a boat you can't have a boat that's perfect for everything. You can get great boats, But if you decide to optimize it, like Maiden for downwind surfing, it means they lack a bit of windward work, ability. So yeah, the riding moment, the overall design to push through waves, and sail shape, having good sailors on board that know how to depower sails and make them nice and flat to push upwind, or fuller, when you're going downwind. I mean, there's a lot of different issues, and I can't really do it from here either. But I'd be talking for half an hour. We will do another Q&A. We didn't do one this week because I was traveling and setting up here. But we'll get back into the routine of a question and answer session on Fridays, towards the end of the week, and we'll usually answer them on the weekend sometimes. So if you've got big questions, go for that. Okay, so thanks, Annie. Mary in her last video, Mondula Ruby. I'm not sure what that one is. Anyway, Mary in her last video, Mr. Mondura. Oh, yeah. Penjuic's putting out great videos. There's no question. I enjoy watching them. So let's see what's going on. Yeah, that's all cool. All right, that's it. I've been waffling on enough. So we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully on time tomorrow. I've got a problem here that I'm setting up on a new internet link. So a lot of my standard settings have failed and so on. And anyway, we'll see how it goes. I might be able to make it a bit better. In fact, I'm reviewing this because it was interesting. Lutz did a great update the other day while I was on the plane, and a few people commented about it might have been a better system because he's using an Apple. I use a banana computer, not an Apple, and he's using a shared system, a screen sharing system off Apple, which works pretty well, but it's a store and forward. It's not live. You've got to record it and then play it later. I kind of like the idea of doing live, so I can respond to the comments and things like that. But there's a few other things we're looking at. It's not perfect what we've got here, but it's okay for now. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow. That's it. I just got to press that one, and we're out of here. See you later. Jane's just getting on the plane, by the way, but not coming here. She's going to China.